Monday evening. It is September 18, 2023, and I welcome everybody back to LTL Live Podcast. This is a podcast. It is live right now on the interwebs, and thank you for joining us on YouTube and Twitter. If you're over on Twitter and you want to pop into the live chat here to chat along with all the amazing people that are subscribed to this channel on YouTube, you can just find us on YouTube at LTL Podcast. Just search LTL Podcast. Come in, hang out with our chat. We have amazing subscribers and amazing mods here. It's nice to see all my channel members, all my channel moderators, and my subscribers here this evening. So we're going to get into, this is episode 98, a little bit out of order, but this afternoon we hit our 100th episode here on LTL Podcast Live since we've gone back to the LTL name. So that's pretty exciting here that we're celebrating that. I want to thank everybody this afternoon when we had a little impromptu driving around stream. We got into the Idaho 4 discussion. We got into kind of some life discussion, spiritual things. And it was just really nice to sit back and let down a little bit and just be ourselves. So that was really nice as well. Tonight, we're going to get back into the 48-hour review, the episode that just got released on Saturday evening. I did do a episode of that last night. But here's the problem. I tried to manipulate the algorithm by kind of burying the video a little bit, seeing if I could get away with it, and unfortunately got a copyright strike on it. So I'll not be able to release that episode. So that episode was a live episode, and if you got to be partaken of that, it was a special treat because you'll never see it again. But what we're going to do here is I think I have a way that we can get through it, review it, the way that we did last night, and we'll do it through news articles, storyboards, and some quick intro videos as well too. I put together a hell of a presentation. I'll be honest with you, by the time I got back here by 6 o'clock, I started working on it, and I legitimately did not finish right up until we started the show. So about 2.5 hours I went in to prep for this show, putting all of our presentation together on our storyboard so we can go through, and we'll get to that in a moment. I first want to do this is look up at a poll. I started a poll here at the beginning of the chat. I'm sorry, the beginning of the show in the chat. And I want to ask you all, 47 votes right now. What is the biggest unanswered question in this case? And we have the 4 choices: timeline, connection to the victims, alleged killer, and motive. Right now, timeline at 31%, connection to the victims at 33%, the alleged killer 14%, and motive of 22%. That tells me that you are all pretty confident that the man that is currently in custody, Bryan C. Kohberger, you feel is the alleged killer in this case. So we'll keep an eye on that poll. We'll keep it going throughout the podcast here. And, we'll go back to it towards the end of the show. All right. Got the live chat going. First, going to start off with a video. This is from CBS News, a little bit of review, and I have a lot to go through this evening. So strap in. We're going to have a lot of fun. I know this is not a fun subject, but we're going to have a lot of fun with what we do here. Interactive conversations, and feel free to sit back, relax, and partake in the show. Thank you.
Of the night of the Idaho student murders, correspondent Peter Van Sant spoke with 2 of the victims' families, one speaking out for the very first time and one providing new details about their daughter's fight for her life.
It's been a long and painful journey for the families of Kaylee Goncalvas, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, the 4 University of Idaho students who were stabbed to death in the pre-dawn hours of November 13th, 2022.
Do you ever dream of your sister?
Yeah, I've had some dreams of her.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually fast forward this because we've seen this preview. I just want to get to Van Sant when he's going to chat because I have a feeling they're probably going to whack me again and kick me off. So let's just go right to Van Sant here. I know that we've seen this preview, so I'm going to jump over to this and just hear what he has to say about his reporting on this case.
And you mentioned it in this piece, but a reminder to everyone that there's a gag order in place. This case got a lot of attention initially. We haven't seen it in the media.
I want to make it very, 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 very prevalent to everybody. Yes, there is a gag order in this case, but There is not a gag order on the families. They have permission to speak. So I make sure that everybody is clear on that.
Because really, people can't talk. Authorities can't talk, but the families can.
Right. The families can. And what the Goncalvas family, who lost their daughter, Kaylee, what they do is they share with us facts from their own investigation. They hired their own investigator, but also facts that the coroner and a lead investigator in the case gave them before the gag order was in place. So we have some new information in the course of this show that that is fascinating.
I know you don't want to talk about everything you learned, but what's something that sort of jumped out at you?
The big thing is that based on all that they have learned, the Goncalvas family is convinced that Bryan Kohberger, the suspect in these 4 killings, entered that house on King Road in Moscow, Idaho, on a day prior to the murders.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have believed that, and I do believe that. And now hearing more of this, I believe it even more. We'll keep playing through.
Why did they think that? Because the coroner told them that they believed that the 2 girls on the 3rd floor were the first ones attacked and killed. How did he know to go to the 3rd floor? And they also have, the family believes they have found a connection through an Instagram account that they downloaded at the time when Kohberger's name first came out. And based on their investigation, there's a lot of controversy about this because we haven't been able to get verification from any authority on this. But they believe that there is a link, that Bryan Kohberger had liked some pictures of Maddie Mogen, the girl who was in the bed with Kaylee, best friends. They'd been sleeping together since they were little girls. And that creates a link. The defense has said there is no link, but the Goncalvas family believes they found one.
It would explain a lot of the questions that people had about, where did he come from? Because it really did seem like there's no way they could possibly sort of cross paths. You do have some good news, though.
Yes, there is some good news for the family. Olivia, who is Kaylee's older sister, recently gave birth to a new baby girl in Los Angeles named Theodora Maddie K. The Maddie K is for the 2 best friends who were murdered that day. And the family looks at the circumstances of this birth as a sign. Olivia looked out, and she lives in West LA, and she saw a rainbow for the first time while she was in labor. The room she was in was 1113. That's the date of the murder. And the time that the baby was born was 4:21 a.m. And authorities believe that's when the murders were occurring.
Wow.
And so they think, the family believes, this is a sign from the 2 girls saying, we're okay.
Whoa, you're giving me chills, Peter. That's incredible. I was lucky enough to get a little bit of a sneak peek this episode. It's really good, really
So
moving.
powerful.
The families are amazing. Peter Van Sant, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go here to an article via CBS News. We're not going to read through all of it because I do have a presentation that I want to get to, and it's going to take a while to get through that presentation, but I think that you're going to enjoy it and you're going to find a lot of value in it. So let's just make sure that everybody can see this. And this is going to go into the trapped conversation. So from CBS News, it reports from the 48-hour special, mother of Idaho murders victims Kaylee Goncalvas says that evidence shows she was trapped. Peter Van Sant reporting. I think he did an excellent report in this special. I felt that he was fair. I felt that he asked amazing questions. And I felt that he got a lot of details correct in a lot of the speculation out there that we've heard about. And I think a lot of that has now been confirmed through this interview in this episode. And I also feel like we got some new information as well, too. So I think he did a great job. I commend him in his journalistic reporting. And, we found that there's some errors in this episode as well. And I'm going to point that out in my presentation where, that could be a producer. That could be someone that's, someone that had put this episode together, rushing to get this out. You always want to make sure, mainstream media always wants to be first. You always want to get these stories out first. So there can be a lot of error in the editing as well, too. And, reporting. So it can happen. But I think Peter was great. I think he did a really good job. So I just want to go into just some of the conversation here. So Christy Gonzalez is really hoping that we could get this show on the road because the not knowing is just agony. It's just agony. Steve and Christy and the parents of Kaylee Goncalvas haven't felt haven't left anything to chance. After the judge issued a gag order to the attorneys and the law enforcement to preserve the right of a fair trial, they drilled down on their own investigation and are now sharing what they believe that investigation found. Steve says he believes transparency is the best path to justice. Steve Goncalvas, we're not going to just sit back, cross our fingers, and pray that we're going to get justice. So searching for answers, I just want to get into kind of the conversations. So Peter Van Zandt, do you have a dream of your sister? Speaking about Xana. Jasmine Canordal, yeah, I've got some dreams. There's times where I pray and I ask to God to see another time. And I did that. It just gives me some peace knowing that I know she's okay. Jasmine Canordal, who spoke for the first time, was a senior at Washington State University and only lived 15 minutes away from her young sister, Xana. Often mistaken as a twin growing up, she said they were best friends. Jasmine, she was just always that fun. She was uplifting. She just took any bad situation and turned it into a good one. Peter, Jeff, what do you love most about your daughter? Everything. She cared about people. She was a people person. She cared about her friends just as much like her family. For the first time in her life, Xana had fallen in love with a fellow student, Ethan Chapin, a triplet who loved his siblings' boats and working on a tulip farm. Jasmine says he was the sweetest kid ever. Peter, are you trying and will you be driving that 8th, 9th miles over the house and you're trying to, okay, so going on to, sadly, they will forever now be linked to death. On the Sunday morning of the 13th, Xana friends started calling Jasmine saying that there's something bad had happened. Now, I found this to be very interesting, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in my presentation, but I thought there was some very compelling things here that we found out. So hold that thought in the back of your brain. We're going to get to that. Peter Van Zandt, and while you're driving that 8 to 9 miles over the house, you're trying to reach your sister then. And she says, how many times did you call her? I called her a lot. I called Ethan a lot too. Her next call was her father, Jeffrey Knodel, and had been visiting Jasmine for dad's weekend and was on his way home. So you answer the phone and what do you hear? Jeffrey, I hear a kind of crying and just telling me to go back to Moscow and meet me at Xana's house. And, my heart drops, instantly races back down there. The house was cordoned off and swarming with investigators. As soon as Jeffrey said he was Xana's father, and Jasmine were escorted to the Moscow Police Department. Peter Van Zandt asks, and Jasmine, what did the officers say to you and your father? I don't know. I don't remember exactly. Just that the 4 people had passed away and that one of them was Xana. Jeffrey, the worst day of your life, just your worst nightmare. This happened. What do? You can't do a damn thing. 100 miles away, the Goncalvas family had been getting frantic calls saying that something bad happened to their daughter, Kaylee, but no one knew what. Christy says, I just kept saying over and over, what do I do? What do I do? What do we do? Finally, at around 4 p.m., a deputy appeared at the door. Steve Goncalvas, and we said, what's going on? I confirm your daughter died. She passed away. Christy then said, there were 4 victims. And I said, 4. And he said, yes, ma'am. Can you tell us if one of the victims is Madison Mogan? And they said, yes. Maddie was Kaylee's best friend from her childhood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I think this is good. We can kind of go back and forth between my presentation and this article because there's more details when we can get into those sections of my presentation. And I think this will line up really well with what I have planned out because I want to show you what I have here. Now, obviously, this is a transcript of that episode, which is phenomenal. So we can go back and actually read through this, which will be great. Let me pull up my presentation here. I just got to bump this up. Now, for everybody to let you know, I'm not going to be able to see the chat that much. So feel free to chat away. And I'm going to do my best here to watch the chat as much as I can. So obviously, this is the Idaho 4 LTL podcast episode. I want to welcome everybody in and thank you for being here this evening, that you still continue to follow the subject matter because I know for myself, it's very near and dear to my heart. I've put a lot of hard work into investigating this case just as much as you all have come in and watched these lives and been interested in this case. So thank you for being here this evening. So what I want to get into first is something that I pointed out the other day. Inside Edition had reported a couple of days prior to the 48-hour episode that came out. And I actually made a video about this, but I thought it'd be relevant in this presentation as well, if you haven't seen it. So Inside Edition reported, a mainstream media outlet reported an error in their reporting. I'm going to say it's false information, but it's definitely an error. And I felt that this is something that could have been corrected. The parents of Kaylee Goncalvas and Xana Kernodle tell 48 Hours that two women attempted to escape their killer by fighting him off inside their off-campus home at the University of Idaho. Steve Goncalvas, the father, says the coroner determined that Maddie Mogen died first, following his daughter. Here is the error. Kaylee and Maddie had been lifelong friends. Obviously, that's not the error, but were sleeping in Kaylee's bed that night on the third floor. That is wrong. That is wrong. It's wrong information. And I think that's where a lot of this mix-up and these conspiracy theories and false information come from. This should have been checked by an editor. So we go into it, and I looked, and I pulled up the PCA. This was stated from the PCA. I then followed Officer Smith upstairs to the third floor of the residence. The third floor consisted of 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Goncalvas, hereafter Goncalvas's room. I later learned from the review of Officer Nuna's body camera, there was a dog in the room, and the Moscow police officers initially responded. The dog belonged to Goncalvas and her ex-boyfriend, Jack DeCore. I found out from my interview that Jack DeCore on November 13, 2022, that he and Goncalvas shared the door. Officer Smith then pointed out a small bathroom on the east side of the third floor. This bathroom shared a wall with Madison Mogen, hereafter Mogen's bedroom, which was situated on the southwest corner of the third floor. Here, this is the correct information. As I entered, meaning Madison Mogen's bedroom, I could see 2 females in a single bed in that room. Both Goncalvas and Mogen were deceased with visible stab wounds. So that article is wrong, and this should have been corrected. And I called them out. I called them out in a tweet. I read a new Inside Edition article on air yesterday during my podcast, shocked to spot a glaring error in reporting. Inside Edition reports that Kaylee and Maddie were both found dead in Kaylee's bed the day of the murders. But according to the PCA, that is false. Kaylee and Maddie had been found in Maddie's bedroom. Errors like this have fueled stressed misinformation and spawned a lot of conspiracy theories in and around this case. This was an opportunity, as it was called out, for them to correct it. They can go back and issue a correction, but it did not get corrected. I'm a little disappointed. And an editor should have caught that. All right, so now we get into the 48-hour episode, the takeaways. I don't know why my photo's not loading, but it's not loading. Hope this is not going to be an issue through the whole thing, because I have photos. Okay, so first thing that we need to establish is that Howard Blum is an idiot. He's creating a narrative to sell books. And we still get a strong sense that these kids didn't have any idea that this was coming to them. I truly feel that through this episode and hearing this and confirming more about this information. All right, moving along. So it's kind of timelined it through the whole episode here. So on 11/13 Sunday morning, Xana's friend started calling Xana's sister, saying something bad happened at King Road. Xana's sister rushes over, Jazzy, rushes over to King Road. This is what I was talking about earlier. This, to me, gives me the sense of confusion that was going on in the house that morning. Now, you have to understand, and I think this is where all those kids come involved in this case. You have people that are essentially calling people. They're showing up to the house. There's a lot of confusion going on. There's a lot of people screaming and crying. You have multiple calls going out to multiple family members, friends, entities, people that are involved in and around King Road, that connection. And this causes a lot of confusion. And Jasmine even says it, that people were confused. So I think that gives a clear sense of like what was going on. I mean, you got to put it in perspective. You go to bed and then you wake up the next day and 4 of your roommates are brutally murdered. What do? You're going to walk out, and the first thing that you're going to think, if I call anybody, if I call a law enforcement official, who's the first person they're going to look at that did this? The 2 people that are alive in the house. How do you explain for that? Unless you have a damn good alibi. A damn good alibi. And they did, and they ended up becoming witnesses. All right, so let's keep moving on here. So Xana's dad gets a call and is told to return to King Road. The house at that time is swarming with investigators when he shows up. Xana's family gets rushed off to Moscow PD and is told 4 people have passed away and 1 is Xana. So the Goncalvas family now gets notified through many frantic phone calls. No one knows what happened. By 4 p.m., a deputy arrives at the Goncalvas residence and confirms Kaylee and 3 other victims are dead. Family goes right into detective mode. And let's see. So let me just go back. I'm going to bounce back to the article here. Let me present the article. We'll go back there. So it says, give us a sense of how close Kaylee and Maddie were in life. Christy says, I think they had a very amazing relationship. The Afton was true best friends from very early. I mean, they were sisters through and through. Olivia, they were completely inseparable. As soon as the news hits, Olivia and the eldest of the 5 children and her parents went into detective mode. Olivia says we had 0 details. We just knew they were gone. Olivia got into her sister's call log and frantically started cold calling recent numbers. That was another piece of information that I found very interesting that came up. Now we figured out that they had got into the call log, so she had access to get into the phone. Says she told her friend that Kaylee had been at the Corner Club around 1:07 a.m. and later texted a rideshare driver who Olivia managed to track down. Olivia, the rideshare driver, said around 1:45 a.m. Kaylee had texted him requesting a ride from the Grub Truck, which is the local mac and cheese food truck, to take them back home at 112 King Road. She had another female with her. So let me go back to my presentation here. I'm going to flip back and forth here if you guys don't mind. So it says here, Kaylee's sister got into Kaylee's call log and started cold calling numbers. Friends started confirming final timeline, essentially the Corner Club, the rideshare driver, and the Grub Truck. 1:45 a.m., Kaylee requests a ride home from the Grub Truck. So 48 hours, we go back. Kaylee and Maddie dropped off. It should say at King, not at King. At King Road at 1:56 a.m. Kaylee's sister goes to police with timeline before they even had it. So through her investigation, she had a pretty good idea of the timeline. Kaylee's sister calls Jack at 2:56 a.m., but he doesn't answer. All right, let me go back to the article. Olivia then uncovered one of the most important leads in the case. The rideshare driver told her about a camera mounted on the Grub Truck. Olivia says, so I was able to look it up and find Kaylee on the video, and I saw a girl that she was with, and it was Maddie. So at that point, I knew Kaylee and Maddie were together. They got into a car and gone home together alone, and you can see that here. That's the video confirming them. Obviously, we've seen that Grub Truck. The driver told her the exact time Kaylee and Maddie were dropped off at the King Road house at 1:56 a.m. A timeline says she confirmed before the police. Olivia immediately took it to the police officers. Here's her phone information. Here's what the rideshare driver's name. Olivia says Kaylee made a call to her boyfriend at 2:56 a.m., but didn't answer. The Goncalvas believe Kaylee fell asleep shortly after. So all her activity stopped at about 2:56 a.m. So that gives you a good timeline. And again, Again, you know, that's when all the activity on her phone shuts down. So that gives a good indication, she had fallen asleep by that time. That would probably also indicate that Maddie had fallen asleep as well at it around that time, and they were together. Let me go back up to the presentation. So I have it here. Goncalvas family thinks Kaylee fell asleep around 2:56 a.m., and that's when all the phone activity stops. Okay, so I found this to be very interesting too, and this was some, probably error in reporting or editing. So we had an introduction to a young lady that's a retired FBI agent, Brianna Fox, and she reports when she talked about this, about the person of interest, the killer, and she said he was dressed in black, a muscular build, and very bushy eyebrows. That is not true. In the PCA, and I always stick to the PCA, DM stated she opened the door for the third time and she heard crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask covered in the person's mouth, with a person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described a figure 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. Not very bushy, but bushy. I'll give her that. But the muscular and not very muscular, that's something that needs to be reported correctly, in my opinion. The male walked past DM and she stood in a frozen shock phase. We know about that. And the male walked towards the backsliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room. So Goncalvas family confirms that Kaylee was assaulted and stabbed to death several times. They said several times in the description. Give me 2 seconds here. I just got to do a little housekeeping. Okay, that should be good. All right, let's go back to the article. So I'm going to be switching back and forth here. Thank you for all being here this evening. So let's see. I immediately took it to the police officer. We talked about the timeline. According to the police affidavit, Kaylee and Maddie were stabbed to death between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m., just as they had done since they were little girls sleeping in the same bed. Christy, in tears, those two best friends since little girls, I don't think there was anything more terrifying than what they went through. I really don't. Excuse me. The killer took 4 lives in the matter of minutes, but left behind 2 surviving roommates, one whom would provide a key description of the intruder. New details of the killer's rampage. If there's one picture that speaks to the Idaho student murders, it is one of the 6 smiling college students blissfully unaware of the carnage to come. This is our great friend, Howard Bloom. It's staged in a way that is almost in a strange way ominous, predicting. This guy's such a douche. Investigative journal of Howard Bloom was written extensively on the student murders for Graydon Carson's online magazine, Airmail. He is now writing a book on the case. Of course he is. Of course he is. On the ends of the pictures of the 2 survivors, in the middle are the victims, and they are huddled together. Kaylee with a beaming Maddie on her shoulders, friends for life. Ethan with one arm around Xana, love in full bloom. And the moment that this should been a memory, but their idyllic college years would eternally be remembered of a gruesome murder that put them in their graves. Bloom. What makes it so tragic is that they're forever preserved in this moment. They'll never, ever be able to leave this moment. That's kind of a douchebag statement. All right, let's go back to the presentation. Let me wait on that first. I want to talk a little bit about that, about being trapped. Give me a second. Let me bring this up again. I appreciate all of the chat. I can't really get to it when I'm doing the switching back and forth. I'll pause for a moment and recognize everybody here in a moment. Thank you for being here on the LTL podcast this evening. Hope you're enjoying this content so far. So hours after the photo was taken, the 4 friends were murdered to death and so violent. There's literally blood oozing out from the home. You could see it on the exterior wall. So it does seem that it's been confirmed that it's blood. There was a lot of people out there saying it was rusty pipes. We knew what it was. CBS consulted Brianna Fox's former FBI agent, professor of criminology at the University of South Florida. Fox. That's how bloody and gruesome the crime scene is. According to the affidavit, which outlines law enforcement investigation, the bodies of Xana and Ethan, who were sleeping over, were found in or near her bedroom on the second floor. The bodies of Kaylee and Maddie were on the third floor in the same single bed in Maddie's room. Van Zant, how did your daughter die in that house? What do you know? Going to Steve. We know the autopsy. We know what it means and what it officially how she died. She was assaulted and stabbed. Christy, several times. Her death certificate is the most ugliest, disgusting piece of paper you'll ever see in your life. Van Zant, and every line is a horror show. Christy, every line because of the cause of death in their contributions to death. Christy and Steve spoke to the coroner, Kathy Maybutt, before the gag order was issued, and they say that she told them how they found the two friends were positioned in the bed. And I'm going to get to that in a second here. Christy Gonzalez, the bed was up against the wall. The headboard was touching the wall, and the left side of the bed was touching the wall. And we believe that Maddie was on the outside and Kaylee was on the inside. According to Maybutt, the killer's first victim was Maddie, Steve says. Van Zant. And then from Maddie, he moved to your daughter. You believe that she had awakened at that point. Christy, yes. Steve, there's evidence to show that she awakened and tried to get out of the situation. Whew. Christy, the way the bed was set up. What? Steve, she was trapped. Christy, she was trapped. We know from the affidavit that Kohberger's cell phone. All right, so we're going to stop here. I want to go back up to a little bit here. I want to show the coroner. If anybody is not familiar with her, this is Kathy Maybutt. I'm going to play a little video here so you can get what she was talking about just after the murders.
And I'm going to ask you, how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing it for 16 years, and I just got reelected for another 4.
So what is it that, or I guess, when did you get the call on Sunday?
I got the call just a few minutes after noon that there were 4 homicides, but I didn't go to the scene because of law enforcement doing their investigation first. So I didn't actually go to the scene until about 5 or 5:30.
Can you walk us through, like, for our viewers, kind of the process, like, between when police show up and then you guys getting the bodies and doing your examinations?
Sure. Well, law enforcement goes through and looks for any evidence, takes videos and pictures of everything in there, and they'll start talking with people. So I don't really need to be there for that. They can't move the bodies. I mean, the bodies have to stay as they were until the coroner gets there. So that's what my job is, to look at the bodies.
As a coroner, do you guys do the autopsies and all that?
No, we some do if they're an actual medical examiner, but we have forensic pathologists and we contract with Spokane to do that.
So in your experience, what is it that you saw when you showed up?
Excuse me.
Well, there was a lot of blood. It was a very sad scene with 4 murdered college students.
You're ruling all 4 deaths homicides?
Yes.
And can you give us a manner of death? Yeah.
I believe that the press release was that they were from a sharp object. So
stabbings.
Yeah, I will know more after the autopsies tomorrow.
And do you believe this could be like a murder-suicide or?
No, there are 4 homicides.
4 homicides. Okay. And when it comes to doing the investigation post-autopsy, that falls on you, correct?
Yes, it's my job to determine the manner and mechanism of death.
And then I know with toxicology results, there can often be, in Washington, a delay. So do you have any idea how long it could take, if those were relevant, to get any type of results back on that?
Well, the toxicology reports, right, they usually take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer. But they might, I don't think they're going to be relevant in the actual manner or cause of death.
And do we know how long between the time of death and when police found them, approximately?
No, I don't know for sure.
Do we have like any, like, could it have been hours? Could it have been a day? Was it maybe close? Like, is there any sort of like time frame there?
Not that I'm aware of.
And you said the scene was really difficult. I mean, is this something you've had to deal with before in Moscow?
Since I've been coroner, there have been at least 2 other multiple homicide scenes that I've been involved in. So
Would you say this is probably the most gruesome?
it's hard to just single it out. It's the only one I've been to where there have been 4 people at one scene. There have been the other ones have had multiple scenes.
And was anybody else injured, like any non-deceased people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be notified either.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like because the injuries could be similar and matter to you.
Oh,
But
right.
no. Okay.
Were the deceased all in close proximity to each other, or were they in different rooms?
I don't know that I can discuss that.
That was my next question too. So I think, yeah.
Will we be able to get a copy of your report once it's concluded? I'm sure it'll be.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just call.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you know what the time frame for that would be?
It just depends on how relevant the toxicology report is, but
Oh, okay.
So-
So it was like the 4 to 6 weeks.
it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
All right, so that was Kathy Maybutt, and I want to go to this part of my presentation. So this is what is said to believe, according to Kathy Maybutt. She confirms the position of Kaylee and Maddie in the bed. So you have the photo here of the virtual house of, or the bedroom of Maddie. So you can see the bed position there. I know this has probably been brought up a million times, but I'm just reviewing it here. So I have Maddie would be the first victim on the outside of the house, outside of the bed. You have Kaylee up against that wall. She would be considered the second victim. And the big red arrow there is showing that entryway. And what I want to do is show you this. And let me just do this really quick. What I want to do is go to the virtual house so we get an idea. So if I pull up the virtual room, hang on one second so I can see what the hell I'm doing here. Am I still? Okay, cool. So if you look here without that, seeing that doorway is small. If you have someone here comes in and attacks on this side, victim 2 wakes up, tries to get away. All they would need to do is reposition themselves here, and you're not going to get out, but you could try to get away. There could be, as brutal as it sounds, maybe some blood, lots of blood splatter up on this wall, or, maybe hand marks of blood trying to get away. Maybe indications of the way that she turned and she was stabbed to show that the position of how she tried to get away, defensive wounds, things like that. So this will give you an idea of how small Kaylee's room was. Very tiny. So not a lot of room here to get out. So I just wanted to bring that up again. All right, let's bring up the presentation. So we have here, and I thought these were important. Steve says there's evidence that Kaylee woke up during the attack and fought back and tried to get out of that situation. Obviously, we just read that in the article as well. Christy and Steve say that the way the bed was set up, Kaylee was trapped. She was trapped. we go on here. Steve says lead investigator told him that they believe that the killer had been scouting out the house on kind of an intelligence mission prior to the murders. They believe that the killer knew when people were coming and going. And it makes a lot of sense. You know, we know, I'm sorry, Maddie's room. Maddie, correct me. I'm sorry, Maddie. Yeah, I know. I understand. Maddie, sorry. Kaylee, Maddie, you start getting names all mashed together. Maddie's room. I apologize. Maddie's room. You know, makes a lot of sense to me. We know about the cell phone hits, the cell phone pings in and around that area. Someone that, to me, in my mind, shouldn't be in and around that neighborhood. Obviously, though, you're free to do what you want, but it's just very odd and strange that, you know, the CAS data shows that he was in and around that area at least 13 times. At least 13 times. So we'll move on here. Steve and Christy think the killer had been inside the house before. He went in, looked around, and tested the waters. Attack started on the 3rd floor. They think the plan went south. Then they think he intended to kill 1, but ended up killing 4. And that would be the whole thing of no witnesses. You know, no witnesses. And, you know, we've said this all along on many of the podcasts here before, many of the things that we've looked into this investigation. You know, it only makes sense. You go up to that 3rd floor, you work your way down. There could have been an intended target, which we think that the Goncalvas family thinks that Maddie was the intended target in this situation. You've now killed 2 people. You move through that house. You want to get out quickly and quietly, and you encounter someone else. You encounter that person as they come at you. You have to make a split decision. Do I run? Do I kill? This killer decides to kill. And then obviously Ethan probably heard what was going on and becomes collateral damage himself. The thing that I want everybody to realize in all of this, and we've talked about this, about the K-bar knife. The K-bar knife is a killing machine. And this is where everybody goes, well, how could it be that one person could only do this by themselves? A K-bar knife is a killing machine. It is made for Marines. It's, I believe it's out of carbon steel that cannot bend. And it's very heavy. And I've held one in my knife, and the blade is about this long, about 8 inches. And then that butt of the knife, it's almost like a hammer. You could literally knock someone out with it. It is the last line of defense for a Marine and a Navy soldier. Navy. I'm sorry, there's slipping my mind right now. SEALs use them. Navy SEALs, Marines. You lose your service weapon, that's going to be the last line of defense in a hand-to-hand combat. These knives are made to rip through bone, rip through flesh, rip through tendons. And I urge everybody, if you have the opportunity, if you ever have the opportunity, to pick one of those knives up and get a general sense of the feeling of that in your hand. It's an extremely powerful weapon, and it would not take much to pierce skin with that. It is razor sharp. It is razor sharp. And I'll tell you, one hit in the chest with a K-bar, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Again, Howard Bloom is an idiot. Brianna Fox talks about killer possibly making the statement, "It's okay, I'm here to help you." Killer has made split decision. Do I run away or do I kill her too? Meaning the encounter with Xana. And then he decided to kill her. And what I want to do is, and I did this last night, if you missed it, I want to go back to a presentation that I did about 4 months ago. I had Laura on the panel, and we put together this amazing presentation. And we had this idea, did Xana Kernodle encounter the alleged killer, Bryan Kohberger, in the kitchen? I'm going to play a little segment here from that so you can see what we thought might have happened. And I'm truly starting to believe you know, with all of this information that came out during this episode and what Laura and I have put together, you know, where we were at this specific point, I do believe that is possible. So let's play that here. It's about a 10-minute long segment, and then we'll get back to the presentation. What's inside the PCA? Geez, I was the opinionated idiot this time. Again, I am not a sub count. 4381. We're at 10,475. How time flies. Not a lawyer. Laura's not a lawyer. I am not law enforcement. Laura's not law enforcement.
Nope.
Everything we say is alleged.
Speculation.
Speculation.
Based on the facts.
In our opinion, right. Based upon the facts. All right, so let's pull this up. So I call this the chilling encounter. Okay, the chilling encounter.
And we also have to remember there's things we don't know, but we can take a step back and say, well, that probably happened, or what really happened inside this house.
Right.
So that's where we got to this part.
Right. So at approximately 4 a.m., so we have the DoorDash, we have Xana, and I'm going to read this, and I know everybody's kind of heard this, but I want you all to really focus. I want you to all really just listen, even if you have headphones on, close your eyes, just really listen to me talk, because this is where it kind of all came together for us the other night. So DM and BF both made statements, and this is probably the most important piece here. DM and BF both made statements during the interview that they implicated the occupants of the King Road residence were home by 2 a.m. and asleep by at least in their rooms by at least approximately 4 a.m. This was at the exception of Xana, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who reported the information. Okay, so DM stated that she originally went to sleep in her room on the southeast side of the second floor. DM stated that she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Goncalvas playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Goncalvas say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." I'm going to repeat that again.
Okay.
DM said she heard who she thought was Goncalvas say something to effect of, "There's someone here." A review. Now listen, everybody, because this was the moment between Laura and I. A review of the records obtained from the forensic download of Xana's phone showed it could have been Xana, as her cell phone indicated she was likely awake using TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. So that's a piece of the puzzle. Go ahead, Laura.
So I've asked myself, why include that? Why is it even relevant that it could have been Xana? How does that play into part? And obviously they were very purposeful with what they put in the PCA because they don't want to show their whole hand. So why would they put that in there? Because I bet if we sit and think, by 4:12 a.m., given the timeline, most likely the third floor occupants, Kaylee and Maddie, were either already deceased or mortally wounded. And they believed that it was Xana. Dylan thought it was Kaylee, but law enforcement are trying to say it was probably Xana because the two upstairs were probably gone by then.
So now we're up on the second floor of the home. You can see where Xana's room is, and you can see that small hallway that leads to the kitchen to DM's room. Okay, so this is what I think. I think Xana's walking towards the kitchen, possibly using TikTok on her app, looking down at her phone, or maybe sitting in that little seating area, because we know to the left was like a little living room sectional or something that was there. So let's say Xana's walking towards the kitchen, maybe to dispose of the DoorDash bag, because we know that bag was found. We don't know if that was a week before or that night. Okay.
We don't know if that was the bag, if the one that we've seen in pictures.
Right. Boom. She encounters the suspect. Okay. Located on the 3rd floor. A short time later, oh my God, it just sounded really Boston. DM said she heard who she thought was Goncalvas say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of the records. Now, again, we're not 100% into these theories. It's just a speculation. To me, it made some sense. Again, we're only speculating. We don't know what happened in that house, but this could be another theory that we thought was very strong at this time, where Xana could have encountered the killer. And this is 4 months ago when we made this prediction. And now you're listening to 48 hours and almost lines up with our prediction about 4 months ago. And I found that very relevant to take this through this podcast with all the new information that we know. Obtained from forensic download of there's a possibility he obviously frightened her and said, "Hey, there's someone here, someone that's not supposed to be here." She said that DM said it sounded like Goncalvas, but it might not have been. It might have been Xana, and that was right outside her door. And maybe that's what prompted DM to look out her door. Hearing the noise, the commotion that she could have been using, could have been on TikTok, blah, 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 at 4:12 a.m. I think Xana saw the suspect and went, "There's someone here." And it scared the shit out of her.
So probably exclaimed it to Ethan. Whether or not she had her phone in her hand or not, we could go back and forth with that. But 4:12 a.m. on TikTok yelled, "There's someone here," because she saw somebody in black either on her way out to the kitchen, her way back from the kitchen. Like we said, we don't know if that was the DoorDash bag from that evening, but it could be that she made it out to the kitchen and saw somebody, or without knowing if there was a DoorDash bag elsewhere in the house, we can't really go from that. But it's very plausible that on her way back, she saw someone, yelled to Ethan, "There's someone here," tried to get back to her room.
Okay. So now we're there. Let me get this next slide. She bolts back to the room. Oh, did I lose you, Laura? Hang on.
No, I'm still. There.
Hang on. Let me get you back in the video. It's all messed up here.
Jeez.
We're all over the place now. All right, bear with me. I'll get this. Where are you?
I'm still here, but I'm not here.
There we go. All right. So now she takes off towards her bedroom. Okay. Suspect in tow. Follows to the bedroom. Now you got the bedroom. Now we don't know exactly where it could have happened in the bedroom. I think that. So now it says DM stated that she looked. Again, this is all, speculation, what we were kind of doing about 4 months ago, but I found it to be, again, really very relevant as to what we found out in the new 48-hour episode. Out her bedroom, but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. New subscriber. DM stated she opened her door the second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Xana's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay. I'm here to help you." Now we think this could have been where there was the struggle inside Xana's room. Go ahead, Laura.
Where she ran back into the room. She said, "There's somebody here," runs back into the room. Ethan's like, "It's okay. I'll help you." And that is when they were attacked.
Okay. Now, attack has already happened. Suspect is going back towards that sliding glass door. You now come back into the hallway. DM's room is to the left. Possible point of entry and exit is to the right. DM stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth, nose, and walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built, and bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state if she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. So now if we come into the kitchen, all right, I'm going to stop that there, but I just wanted to show a little bit of that review. And again, that was just a prediction that Laura and I had about 4 months ago. It just made a little bit more sense to us now, or to me, after hearing, the new details in that 48-hour episode. And it was pretty close. It was pretty close to what we predicted. Again, we don't know exactly what happened in that house that night. Many people have heard many details about this, and we truly just don't know. We were not there. We were not a fly on the wall. We can only predict and only come up with what we can speculate. So let's go back to the presentation here. Again, Howard Bloom is an idiot. We talked about the split decision, and we go into Brianna Fox says it's possible that Xana encountered the killer face to face. And as you see, that was kind of the presentation that I put together and 4 months ago, and that's kind of how we felt. Brianna Fox talks about the killer possibly making the statement, "It's okay, I'm here to help you." And it's funny, 4 months ago, this is exactly what Laura and I predicted. It's crazy. It's really crazy that a lot of the predictions that Laura and I came up with, are starting to lean more towards what the reality in this case is. So killer had to make a split decision. Do I run away? Do I kill her too? And then he decides to kill her, and Ethan as well. No. I don't know why I keep going back to the slide. No witnesses. So Brianna Fox says this was a pleasure kill. I totally believe that as well. Kaylee's sister starts gathering information about Kohberger. Once arrested, she finds Kohberger's Reddit posts. Howard Bloom is an idiot, or Bloom, however you want to say it. Howard Bloom's an idiot. Bloom says cast data makes on suspicion of Kohberger, but it's not convincing, saying it's putting someone at someone's doorstep. It's just putting someone in someone's neighborhood. Well, I got news for Bloom. Did you ever hear anything about Alec Murdaugh and the cast information in that case? Oh, let me remind you, Bloom. Let me remind you. So we'll look here. Prosecutors used phone logs to pinpoint the times of the murders. And this is the Murdaugh case we're talking about, and cell phone, the importance of cell phone data. This is an amazing article, and I urge everybody to read it. I'm going to drop that here in the chat. Take a look at that article. It's fantastic. We're going to go to this. Prosecutors used phone logs to pinpoint the times of the murders. They used the times that the phone locked. Maggie's locked at 8:49 p.m. and 31 seconds. 8:49 p.m. and 31 seconds. They even got it down to the damn seconds. And Paul's locked at 8:49 and 35 seconds. Neither victim used their phone after that, so the prosecution claims Alex murdered them in the following minutes. Additionally, GPS locations might have used to place Murdaugh at the scene of the murders, except that we know not to have it on him. He did, however, have it with him when he attempted to create his alibi, driving to his mother's home to check up on her. But by comparing the GPS readings for that trip to the historical data on his vehicle, the prosecutors showed that he drove much faster that day than usual, drove on trips to his visits to his mother's. He exceeded 55 miles per hour speed limit by traveling as fast as 80 miles per hour that night, even though his typical daytime speed was only 40 miles per hour. The prosecution conjectured that he was trying to create a time frame that would make his presence at the scene of the murders questionable, since his mother has late-stage Alzheimer's disease and could not testify about the length of time of his visits. You need to read this article. I'm telling you, this information like this is going to be extremely relevant. So Bloom is an idiot. It's going to be extremely relevant in this case. He's trying to create deflection. He's trying to create confusion and say that it's not relevant. It is relevant. And this article is amazing. It's very quick read. You know, I urge everybody to read that. So, all right, let's go back to the article here, and then we'll come back to my presentation. Okay, Van Zant, you believe these visits were like he was on an intelligent mission, a scouting mission. Christy, yes. Van Zant, looking at the lifestyle patterns when they came and went, who came into the house. Steve, yeah. You know, when people were coming and people were going, it makes Goncalvas wonder if he'd ever gone inside the house. Christy, I think that he at least had opened the door, went in, tested the waters, and looked around. Steve says the coroner told him the killer's rampage started on the 3rd floor, where both Maddie and Kaylee had their bedrooms. Christy thinks he wasn't expecting to find the two friends together in the same bed. Christy, I do know that was the plan went awry. Do you think that I do think that you know he intended to kill 1 and killed 4. Brianna Fox also believes that Xana and Ethan were collateral damage. According to the affidavit, Xana received the DoorDash food delivery at 4 a.m. and then went back to her room on the 2nd floor. It is possible, says Fox, that Xana, still awake, came face to face with her killer. Fox, and she sees somebody that she doesn't expect, and I don't think he was expecting, and to see her either. And that's where I thought it was, you know, there's someone here. There's someone here. One of the 2 surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen, later told the police that she heard what was thought from crying from Xana's room. She heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Not something a killer would likely say to intend to target, says Fox. Just want to recognize this super chat. Allison says, does the phone have to be on for cast information data to track? Here's the thing. When your phone is off or your phone is with you, it's still collecting data. Telemetry, it's still going to collect data. Apps are still being used at a very, very low voltage and will still collect some data. So if I am tipping my phone, or I'm moving with my phone, or I'm walking with my phone, the minute I turn it on, all of that data is going to relay up to the cell. It's almost how it's going to go right to the cloud. All that information is going to go right up to a cell phone tower and go right to the cloud. A lot of apps still collect and track data. Here's another one that does that. Strata. We've looked it up. That was an app that was supposedly looked at in this case. You know, Bryan was a runner. Someone found his account, supposedly his account, on a run that he had gone on. That app will continue to collect data. So once that phone's turned on, all that information is going to bang and hit a tower. It's going to start uploading all that information that it collected in the cloud. These phones, they record everything you do. I always say this is the best, worst invention that's ever been put in our hand. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. So one of the 2 surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen, Fox, he probably was trying to make a split decision. Do I run away? Do I kill her? What do I do? And he decided to kill her. At approximately 4:17 a.m., police say outside security camera, less than 50 feet from Xana's room, picked up the distorted audio, what sounded like voices or whimpering, followed by a loud thud. Shortly after, Dylan and the surviving roommate, whose bedroom was near Xana's, opened the door. Bloom, according to the police affidavit, when Dylan opens the door, she says she sees a man dressed in black with a black mask, and she says has bushy eyebrows. Those bushy eyebrows become very important when the police are making their identification. The man with bushy eyebrows kept walking to the rear of the house without harming Dylan. Excuse me. Bloom, why was Dylan not killed? Again, there's no definitive answer. He did not kill her because he didn't see her or some sort of transfixion on getting out. He didn't kill her because he was sedated, or it was just simply too depleted to kill again, Fox says. Fox, even stabbing someone for 1.5 minutes, not only is that overkill, but it's actually would become rather exhausting. The police believe that the murder weapon, which had not been found, was a military-style K-bar knife. The details are disturbing. Fox, this is not a civilian knife. It's actually meant to tear apart bone, ligaments, and organs. So this is extremely brutal, and it's something that you would never expect a person to walk in and want to commit unless they took some pleasure out of the brutality of it. After seeing the intruder, Dylan, the surviving roommate, told investigators she locked herself in a room. It would be almost 8 hours before 911 was called, causing an uproar on social media, criticizing Dylan's actions. But Fox says it's not unusual for people to freeze or to be afraid to intervene. Fox, she had no reason to, how to handle herself in that moment. According to the affidavit, the male walked towards the backsliding glass door, presumably left the scene, but committing murders and getting away with two different things, says Fox. Fox, for an offender to get away with a crime, a murder, that they have to bat 1,000. They have to be absolutely perfect. They have to make one singular mistake, and that's all it takes. And that one possible mistake is the case that may be the sheath of the K-bar knife. One was found on the bed next to Madison Mogen. It would lead investigators to a backdoor of a man studying for a career in criminology, Bryan Kohberger, the alleged killer. I'm telling you, that knife sheath. That's the one. All right, we go back to the presentation here. Defense says Kohberger was just driving around. That's all he was doing. He was driving. All right, Steve and Christy think killer had a kill kit. Bloom is an idiot, interjects that damn drug theory, and believes this was a revenge kill over a drug deal gone wrong. Guy's a moron. He's trying to sell fucking books. Steve and Christy think the killer wanted to commit murder. Aha, yes. The Steve and Christy. Oops, what did I do here? Steve and Christy find, after Kohberger's arrested, Steve and Christy find Kohberger's Instagram followers and finds that he follows Kaylee and Maddie on Instagram. And sees he likes photos, also finds Kohberger family members connected to this Kohberger Instagram. Now, I'm going to say this for the record. It has not been 100% verified that this indeed is Bryan Kohberger's Instagram account. I believe it is. Finding and hearing what I know about it. It's been now since erased, but this is what it initially looked like. And you can see Maddie and Kaylee account there as well. Okay, moving along. Steve and Christy believe Maddie was the target. And then ending with my presentation, Howard Blum, or Bloom, however you want to say it, he's an idiot. The guy's a moron. I'll put that out there. Not afraid to say it. All right, going back to the article. Inside the investigation, Van Zant. Day after and week after passed, and there's no suspected arrested. What's the time like you? Steve says it's the worst. 47 days after the murders, the family and Kaylee and Matt and Xana, Ethan, and the country waited and wept and weighed in. Do we have a suspect at this time? Chief Fry. People in Idaho and those throughout the nation are provided with information that's very impressive. We received over 19,000 tips. On December 30, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was arrested in Albright, Pennsylvania. At the time, his attorney said Kohberger looked forward to being exonerated. Van Zant, what goes through your mind when you see the face of the alleged killer? Jeffrey Knodel, I wonder why. Who is this? Why do you know? Never heard of this person before. It's still confusing and why. At this point, the families know as much about Kohberger as the public did. A PhD candidate studying criminology just 10 miles away at the Washington University. Olivia, I remember thinking, I only have 5 minutes to look up this individual and try to get us any credible information before things start going wonky. Some of Olivia's Goncalvas online discoveries of Kohberger made her uneasy. He had made a few posts on Reddit in which he was conducting seems like a questionnaire to people in prison or in jail who committed the crimes. How do you pick your victims or target? For 7 weeks, the families in the country were left wondering. Fox, I think this was type investigation. 47 days is actually pretty quick. Criminologist and CBS News consultant Brianna Fox says, Moscow police kept things moving, starting a video canvas and produced footage from those early morning hours showing a white car making 3 passes by the girl's house starting at 3:30 a.m. Less than an hour later, investigators say the killer struck. It's so odd to know that. It's so haunting to know that, that last video that we see of the Moscow police with those individuals in the Banfield at like 3:20, at 3:30, the alleged killer, Bryan Kohberger, had already started making his rounds like a shark, circling in the water, smelling blood, waiting to go in, and then finally goes in to attack. They noticed that the car approached King Road, left, came back, almost did a U-turn, finally went there around 4:06 in the morning, and the car departed about 25 minutes and sped off. Multiple surveillance cameras then captured a white car as it traveled to appear to be less direct route back to Pullman, Washington, arriving at 5:30 a.m. That information helped investigators identify to make the model of the vehicle. Fry, we're looking for a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Bloom, Washington State Police find a car parked outside the graduating house. They get a license plate and they get a Bryan Kohberger's name. They then get a driver's license and they see bushy eyebrows that the eyes of one of the Moscow detectives must be the eyebrows of the killer. I think they actually did an amazing job doing the investigation. Mapped out all those cameras, found the position of that car, where it went, and traced it right back to his house. Now armed with a warrant, investigators retrieved cell phone data from that morning, which captured Kohberger's phone. Oh, this is the great quotes by Bloom. Around 2:47 a.m. in the Pullman, when they suddenly stopped connecting to the network, according to the affidavit. This is also around the time cameras caught a white Elantra leaving the apartment complex. Fox, there's also an indication that he turned off his cell phone, which is something that a lot of people do when they want to avoid law enforcement knowing their whereabouts. His cell phone signal was picked up again 2 hours later, south of Moscow, and it traveled back towards his apartment building. The affidavit described a deeper dive into Kohberger's phone history that revealed this was a familiar neighborhood with him going back several months. Fox, cell phone records indicate that he had traveled past and was very near to the vicinity of the crime scene 12 separate occasions. And the towers actually captured a 13th trip just hours after the murders. I wonder, was he going back for the knife sheath? Was he going back to see what happened or anybody was around? Anecdotally, a lot of the killers, they revisit the memory of the crime. I won. I was able to get away with it, and this guy and you guys won't catch me. Bloom. But he only had one secret weapon to make their case. They had a knife sheath, and there was a microscope spot of DNA on that. They can tie this DNA to Kohberger. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. And they're going to have to explain for that. I don't care how many times people argue this. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The bottom line is that knife sheath was found on that bed with 2 dead victims, and his DNA was on it. They're going to have to explain for that in any way. They're going to have to explain for that. Doesn't matter if they find out fucking Dan from California did it, then they need to find out and say Dan from California put it there. If they think Stephanie from New Mexico did it, then they need to say Stephanie from New Mexico did it. If they say that Bryan Kohberger was in an Army-Navy store 4 months prior to the murders and picked up that same K-bar knife, and it was purchased by someone in that house, and it was put there during a party or whatever, they're going to have to explain for that. Or how about this? How about he walked in there with the intention of killing this individual or individuals, and he screwed up and he left it behind on the bed when he left. Maybe it was pulled off his belt during the attack. Maybe he's an idiot and put it down on the bed when he attacked these individuals. Maybe he had it in his hand and it was swiped out of his hand and he lost sight of it because it was dark in that house. But the bottom line is this: they're going to have to explain for that. And you know what? They can't. They can't even give an alibi right now. You know what his alibi is? He's driving around. He took a late night drive. I'm sorry. If I'm accused of a quadruple homicide and I have the opportunity to stand up in court or through my lawyer to give an excellent alibi to not even put me in or around the vicinity of this case, you damn well know I'm going to stand right up and say, here's my receipt. I was at the gas station. Here's my plane ticket. I was in Hawaii. I was with Mary Smith, whatever, at this party. Here's photos from the party at 4:04 a.m. We were shooting the shit, or we're taking a hit off a bong, or drinking beer, whatever it is. Why does this individual have no alibi? I think you all need to start waking up here. People that are facing quadruple homicide, believe me, if they want to save their life, they're standing up and they're saying, I was not there, and here's the evidence why I was not there. Or here's the evidence, here's the people I were with. They got nothing. He has nothing. He has nothing. So I think we all need to start waking up here. I think we all need to start waking up. The conspiracy theory channels, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So he has some, in my opinion, he's got some involvement. Now, we don't know. There could be more people involved. Absolutely. But right now, they got one of the people I believe are responsible for this. And he hasn't said nothing. He hasn't said anything. No alibi, nothing. All right, let me just pull the super chat up. Carrie H with the $4.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, Carrie. And listen, you may not agree with me. People in this chat room may not agree with me, but it's my opinion. It's my opinion. All right, according to the affidavit, the DNA was found on the button snap of the sheath, but when investigators ran it through the national database, there were no matches. We know that. It's unclear about Kohberger. Bloom. Kohberger, from what I've heard, tells his father he's in trouble with his job. He's concerned about what his son to want to make him drive back with him. Gee, maybe they have some evidence in that car that he's trying to get away 3,000 miles away and put it in Pennsylvania. You ever think about that? You ever think about that? I'm going to drive the car back, load everything up that I know that I can get away with, and get it 3,000 miles away from that crime scene. 2,500, sorry. On that 2,500 mile journey from Washington, they were stopped twice for traffic violations, which I think were stops. Those were stops from those were coordinated stops. What also is interesting, the Kohberger reaction to the police. Oh, he's pretty calm and cool. Well, he's probably been studying this, and he's probably been, gearing himself up for this moment. It seems that he's the type of person that is someone that can blend into society. Let's say Ted Bundy. Let's say like most serial killers. What do? They blend into society. Now, I'm not saying that Bryan Kohberger is a serial killer, and we still don't even know if he's the killer in this case. But he's in jail right now. There's a lot of evidence pointing towards him. These people, these types of people, blend into society. Bloom, what did they say? What did they say when they sent the team of Pennsylvania state troopers to Kohberger's family house? Law enforcement recovered Kohberger's father's DNA from trash outside his home, which tested highly probable for the biological father, who left DNA on the knife sheath. Bloom. So what is that eureka moment, which they decide they could get an arrest warrant? This guy's a douche. At that point, they made the arrest of Kohberger, and they got separated, essentially a search warrant for his DNA. Poking holes in the case. Van Zandt. Where you sit today, are you certain that Bryan Kohberger is the killer? Christy Gonzalez to Steve, with what you know. I don't trust anybody or anything, so I have to see it myself. I have to see everything. That leads me to believe that they have strong suspicions that this could be Kohberger, but they're not 100% sure because they don't know. I think they have just about as much information as we all have in this case. They haven't seen or heard anything. And I think with what they know through their private investigation or their PIs that they've hired, they may feel that this is possibly the person that did this. I think they feel strong about that. But Steve wants to see it. Steve wants that hard, definitive evidence, just like all of us. I think they have the strong suspicion, but he wants to know. He wants to see it. As the months pass, Steve and Christy Gonzalez remain a united front in wanting justice, but the wait has brought different perspectives. Van Zandt, your mind's still open to the potential? Steve, of course. Van Zandt, that could only be someone else. Steve, of course. Yep, I got into that 100%. Yep, of course. Van Zandt, That's not where you are. Steve, no. Christy say, yeah, that's fine. Fox, I don't think there's any slam dunk. Criminologist Fox says that with the gag order in place, any hint of Kohberger's defense has to come from court documents. Fox says it seems that the defense is, excuse me, alleged that there was a rush to judgment. Law enforcement made an arrest too fast and that they focused on their client too quickly. Defense filing revealed that Kohberger's alibi for the night of the murders was simply that, and we all know it. We've all heard it. We've all heard it a million times. What was it? What did he do? What is his defense? We all know. We know what the defense is. What was he doing, gang? Driving around. Just driving around. That's all he was doing. Just driving around. Mr. Kohberger was out driving around. Did I get super chat? I'm sorry. Did I miss it? Let me go back to it. Sorry, I miss them sometimes. Let's see. When was the first 48 documentary filmed? Very recent. It was on Saturday night. It was released on Saturday. If you just Google CBS 48 hours, it's a free episode. That's how I watched it. Free episode. So if that's in your area, free episode. Okay, sorry. Sometimes it's hard for me to see the chat because I'm reading. Okay, Fox, the defense is not necessarily having to prove that he's innocent. They have to raise doubt. Both Fox and Bloom think that the defendant can find ways to poke holes in the prosecution case. Of course there's ways to do that. Of course there is. There are other concerns, which whether Bryan Kohberger's car is accurately identified to the onset or if it's revisited after knowing that Bryan Kohberger drove. The cell phone data, Blum. The cell phone data makes one suspicious of Kohberger, but it's not convincing. It's not putting someone at someone's doorstep. It's putting someone in someone's neighborhood. Okay, dude, you need to read a little bit more about fucking cast information. Bloom, if you raise doubts about the validity and accuracy of cell phone data, I think you're halfway there to getting the case against Kohberger either a hung jury or not a guilty verdict. I think this guy is just trying to sell books, honestly. And there's more according to the defense. Fox, there is no DNA or forensic evidence found from the crime scene at the apartment, car, office, or on Bryan Kohberger's person. We do not know that. That has not been released. And I found that to be an error in reporting too. We have probably only seen about 10 or 15% or heard about 10, 15% of the evidence in this case. We do not know that yet. We don't know that. So we're basically alleging how it could have committed such a brutal murder, yet have no evidence found on him of that. After consulting their own investigation, Christine, it's a lot of people don't understand. There is still a gag order on this case. After consulting their own investigator, Christy and Steve theorized that Kohberger likely brought what was called a kill kit with him. What do you mean by a kill kit? I think he had a backpack, a change of clothes. We don't know if that's coveralls, pants. We don't know if it was coveralls, pants, hood. We just don't know. Defense filing also claimed that the presence of other identified male DNA was found on the premises. 3 separate and distinct male DNA profiles were found at the crime scene. 2 were inside the house and 1 was outside on a glove. The defense wants you to know that there are still these people and what role they could have played in this whole story. Well, you know what? There's probably 1 million people walking in and out of that house. There's 1 million people that walked in and around that neighborhood. But the bottom line is this: Bryan Kohberger's DNA is found on a knife sheath next to 2 dead victims. Why is it there? Don't give me the excuse that drug dealers set him up, Moscow police are setting him up, they found this guy, plucked him out of the obscurity of society, the perfect victim to plant this all on. I don't want to hear it, because bottom line, they're going to have to explain for that. Why is it there? Why was it there? Why was it found there? Why is his DNA on that knife sheath? Why was his car in and around that area? Why was he following these 2 individuals on Instagram before they ended up murdered, 9 months later? Bloom, maybe someone had reneged on a drug payment, and this was a retribution for vengeance for people not paying for drugs they had ordered. It's the most ridiculous fucking statement I've ever heard in my entire life. Van Sant, I want you guys to respond to one thing that's out there. The speculation somehow drugs were involved in this attack. Steve, this is just Hollywood nonsense. I just dismiss it because I understand our society wants to believe in some of these movies that they watch. They don't have these crazy lives. We don't have these crazy lives that are crossing paths with people like that. Christy, the storyline of being drugs gives people a reason to think why it happened because no one knows why. And the reason I think it happened is because he wanted to. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to commit a murder. Kohberger's defense attorney argued the lack of evidence linking their client to students. Fox, the defense is claiming that the defendant, Bryan Kohberger, and the victims have absolutely no connection. There's no motive. In the minutes after Bryan Kohberger was publicly named, the Goncalvas family went online. They told us the name, and we had immediately started Googling. They believed they had found possible connection through Instagram and immediate took screenshots. And there's that screenshot here. And this is actually was provided by the Goncalvas family to 48 hours for this investigation. From our investigation, the account, it appeared to be the real Bryan Kohberger account. Among the people this account was following were Maddie Mogen and Kaylee Goncalvas, in addition to several people with the name Kohberger. But when we looked through there, it appeared to have other family members that were related to him. At first, Steve Goncalvas, who works in IT, is skeptical, thinking that someone created a fake account in minutes following Kohberger's arrest. But according to the family, they uncovered more of the possible connection. Christy, you would go to Maddie's Instagram account and look at his picture, and he liked them. Brian's name was under a lot of Maddie's pictures, liked her pictures, liked that picture and that picture and that picture and that picture. So he was actively looking at the Instagram account. And the importance of this is what? Just digital evidence. That is particular account. He had the same type of connection with the victims. He had some type of connection to the victim. 48 hours not confirmed the authenticity of the account, which has since been deleted, and the gag order prevents investigators from commenting. I mean, could it be possible? Could it be possible that they know that this is his account? That's why they have it hidden, or they've just collected all the data out of it and now it's been deleted. I find it odd that the account is deleted now after this investigation. After deciding months, looking for their own answers, the Goncalvas say that they are mentally prepared for trial no matter when it begins. Christy, I think he's done. He's going to feel it just for staring at the back of his head, and he's going to know that we are the Goncalvas family, and he knows, what he did to our daughter. So coping with the grief. Steve, this is how it could happen. How could this happen to a group of kids that are doing everything the way they're supposed to do? Christy says, to not know what keeps you awake at night. It's just every day, all day. It never stops. Why? There is no why. It is unexplainable today that it was the day Kaylee Goncalvas, Maddie Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapman were murdered. Jasmine, I wish I knew. There were all four of them, and they were just great people and made such an impact on our lives. For now, the families are left to thought what might have been. It goes in talking about the celebration. They received a degree. Seeing those graduation photos, it was just should have been there. Graduation is just one of many milestones that it missed. She would have been my maid of honor, probably would have been hers. And it's like sad to have her go through those life moments without her. Olivia, the memories that we shared, we don't do it lightly because we have very private memories. And sometimes it feels like I'm giving away a part of them, but I do it for the importance to realize the great loss of it because nothing is going to bring them back. Jasmine Kernodle plans to work side by side with her sister Xana, creating a marketing business. It's, excuse me, it's just not the same without her because just brought like crazy different energy than everybody I've ever met. Let's see. Steve says, we lost a person that's now forced us to make new memories, forced us to go and take on something like it seems a little daunting at first. And we heard about the birth of Olivia's baby. We had the Chapmans chime in and says Ethan had a great smile, smiled all the time. So Ethan will live on through the foundation. That's what motivates us to do this. How do you live with this, Jeff? It's not easy. You just keep going, Then here it says, Livy at the end, the memories that we share, we do not lightly because they are very private moments, but sometimes it feels like I'm giving away part of them. But I do have the importance to realize how great a loss it is, because nothing is going to bring them back. I think it's a great episode. I think going through and review all of this was really, really great too. You know, we got a lot of new information. I think we got a lot of things that were confirmed. We got some errors in reporting. So it had a whole mixed bag of everything in there. But again, you know, we're all anxiously waiting. We're all anxiously waiting this trial. And I think it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while for everybody. So we all need to sit back and wait and hopefully get some slivers of information as it comes out. And it's tough. It's very, very tough. You know, it's tough to go through. It's tough to do these podcasts. As much time that and energy that we've put into this, and you know, everybody's been here through a lot of this as well too. So we will continue. We will continue on. So I want to thank everybody for being here of this episode on LTL Podcast this evening. You know, we'll continue reporting the news and putting good, relevant information out there in these cases, respecting the victims' families and communities. And moving on, and as new stuff comes out, we will continue to report. Before I leave out, I just want to recognize this. Lucy became a new member, and I think that was to the previous stream that I had this afternoon. Allison, again, thank you for your $1.99. Michelle, thank you for the $4.99, and always Carrie H with the $4.99. I want to thank all the new people that came in to check out LTL Podcast this evening. Hopefully you subscribed. It'd be really nice to have everybody subscribe. And on your way out, if you can just give me a like and a thumbs up there, that would be really appreciative as well. So this is episode 98. We'll be back soon to bring on another episode and into some more investigation. One good thing is they did catch a suspect out in Los Angeles that murdered that young deputy. And I did some updating on my page, my community tab about that. Ryan Klinkenbroomer, they have a suspect in that case, which is fantastic. And hopefully his family, his loved ones in that police department can now have some peace. So I think with that being said, we're going to end this podcast tonight. Thank everybody for being here. I appreciate you all being here. Again, if you're a new subscriber, please make sure to subscribe if you had found this podcast relevant and gave good information back. I would appreciate it. And hopefully you'll all be back here on the next one. I'm going to get out of here. I thank everybody again. Have a good night and be safe. See you next time. Bye.